The interpretation of narratives is to some extent subjective because everyone can experience art differently. At the same time, using literary analysis, we can still explain the most reasonable meanings that the artist meant to convey or that the audience is likely to understand. To understand themes of any work of art, however, spoilers are involved. Heavy spoilers. So consider this your spoiler warning. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, the reimagining and retelling of the original, is only the first third of the 1997 classic JRPG by Square Enix. Despite covering only 1/3 of the original main story, the game still manages to convey some conflicting perspectives among the different factions in its themes. In this video, part 1, we are going to explore the nuance of said themes and answer the question, how are opposing ideas of the world remade in Final Fantasy VII? The first theme on the world for today's video in Final Fantasy VII Remake is that of the need for protection of the world. This idea is heavily developed through the motif of plants and flowers. I actually think it's a little less obvious than in the original game, but the severe lack of plant life in the opening sequence implies that the fertility of the life force near Midgar has been heavily depleted due to the Mako reactors.
Where'd you get that? I can't remember the last time I saw a real one.
When Cloud offers Tifa the flower given to him by Aerith, Tifa comments on the rarity of flowers themselves. In fact, if I remember correctly, the only time any plant life is actually shown in the game is in the immediate proximity of Aerith's influence. Her house, the Leaf Orphanage, and the church in the Sector 5 slums. Avalanche is an ecological resistance organization whose goal is to fight against Shinra Electric Power Company. Specifically, they are concerned with the harvesting of Mako, the spiritual energy of the planet that can somehow be converted into electricity. Barrett and his splinter cell of Avalanche believe in protecting the planet so much that they are willing to use terrorism to attack and destroy Mako reactors.
Our beloved planet is dying.
Sephiroth, a legendary soldier, appears early in the game to echo Avalanche's concern for the planet. While there isn't a lot about environmental protection in the Bible, there is a little bit in Genesis. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and keep it. Genesis chapter 2, verse 9 and 15. In this passage, it is implied that the man, Adam, is given responsibility for the Garden of Eden, and therefore by extension, the environment of Earth, not only to work the garden, but also to keep it, implying some level of what is commonly referred to in Christianity as environmental stewardship.
Blood of our world. The planet bleeds green like you and me bleed red. The hell you think's gonna happen when it's all gone, huh? Answer me!
Like the book of Genesis suggests, Avalanche and Sephiroth fight to protect the world, but Remake provides a nuanced, opposing view of not just the need for protection, but cultivation, leading to our second theme. Our second theme for today's video on the world is that of the need to cultivate the world.
And just when I had finished tending the flowers here.
Many of the plants, flowers, and medicinal herbs do not grow naturally, but need to be cultivated by people, especially Aerith. The way that I remember the original Final Fantasy VII, Avalanche and the eco-terrorism it performs is portrayed in almost entirely positive light, while Shinra is portrayed in almost entirely negative light.
Huh. Mako is the lifeblood of the planet? Yeah, the hell it is.
But in Remake, there's more nuance to the arguments.
We found an underground Shinra lab, where they've done human testing.
While Shinra is still portrayed as evil for other reasons, such as inhumane scientific experimentation, indifference to loss of life, and war profiteering, the cultivation of the planet and the use of Mako for the purposes of electricity is defended by various characters in the game. Early in the game, a Sector 7 groundside resident admires the progress of the construction of Midgar, even though he is forced to live as a grounder and not on top of the plate. When Cloud and some of the Avalanche members go on top of the plate to visit Jesse's family, the employee housing is portrayed as clean, well-developed homes with a suburban feel, made possible by the Mako reactors.
Thanks to the miracle of Mako energy, our lives are richer and better than ever before.
Later, when the team infiltrates the Shinra headquarters, Barrett bristles at the corporate propaganda, suggesting that all of the propaganda are lies. but Cloud disagrees with Barrett, pointing out that cultivation and extraction of Mako energy has improved life through the availability of electricity.
Except that Mako has made people's lives better.
In the visual entertainment hall, the show points out that the ancients themselves utilized Mako energy in many ways, and that there were artifacts of said use of Mako in the form of materia.
The fruits of their labors have survived to this very day in the form of certain kinds of materia.
Shinra then compares its own cultivation and use of Mako to that of the ancients, suggesting that their extraction of Mako energy is similar or even carrying the torch of what the ancients did. While Shinra is obviously whitewashing the negative effects of their extraction of Mako, their arguments that electricity is needed to progress in technological and scientific advancements of civilization cannot be denied. As mentioned before, in the book of Genesis, God commanded Adam not only to keep the garden, but also to work it and cultivate it. But other verses imply cultivation as well. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them. And God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "Behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food." Genesis chapter 1, verses 27 to 29. In this passage, we see that while protecting the environment as much as possible is good, it is clear that God meant for the earth to be cultivated and used for the benefit of man, giving over plants and animals to people to be used responsibly. However, the Shinra Electric Power Company harnesses the resources of the planet, Mako energy, so unethically that it could be described as unsustainable exploitation. This results in a need to cultivate new areas, a search for a Mako paradise, which leads us to our third theme. Our third theme for today's video on the world in Final Fantasy VII Remake is that of a paradise in the world.
Some believe the Promised Land to be a myth.
This concept of a paradise is developed through allusions to the Bible, using religious ideas like allegories and myths, and specifically Christian terminology like scriptures and promised land. In the game, Shinra Electric Power Company believes that there is an opportunity to exploit the Eden-like paradise rich in Mako energy that the original stewards of the planet, the ancients, or the Cetra, kept responsibly. Furthermore, they believe that the ancients prophesied that the Promised Land would be found and that there would be a return to it. Shinra hopes to be the ones that find the Promised Land and to build a new city on it.
I don't see how...
Words, Reeve. Neo Midgar.
In their promised land, we will build a new Mako-powered metropolis.
Mr. President, we still don't know for sure that the Promised Land even...
In order for this to be possible, they need someone to lead them to the Promised Land. They believe that the last living descendant of the ancients, Aerith, will be able to do that. Obviously, many are highly skeptical that Shinra can be trusted, but even that aside, Aerith is uncertain whether or not she is able to lead anyone to the Promised Land. In the Bible, the Promised Land refers to the land of Canaan, later renamed Israel, promised to Abraham and his descendants by God, which is described in very positive terms. "Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt, and I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey.'" Exodus chapter 3, verses 16 to 17. While Israel and its capital, Jerusalem, are not quite Eden-like in its physical characteristics, this concept of a promised land is combined with the concept of a spiritual paradise in a spiritual city, New Jerusalem. "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also, on either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations." Revelation chapter 21 verses 1 to 2 and chapter 22 verses 1 to 2. Like the concept of a New Jerusalem, Shinra hopes to build a Neo-Midgar and capitalize on the spiritual resources, Mako energy, to expand their commercial empire. Shinra chooses to focus their efforts on seeking the paradise because they don't really care about the people, which is related to our last theme. Our last theme for today's video on the world in Final Fantasy VII Remake is that of people being a part of the world. This is quite an interesting theme because usually environmental protection groups promote the interests of the environment and nature over that of people. However, in the narrative of the game, Mako is both a limited resource of the planet, a thinly veiled representation of fossil fuels, as well as something more. A vague spiritual energy that is contributed to by the people returning to the planet upon death in a very pantheistic sort of way. This set of pantheistic beliefs, described in the game as planetology, is something that, while publicly rejected by Shinra, is generally well known and understood. When Shinra is prepared to drop the Sector 7 plate as part of its war profiteering conspiracy to fight Avalanche and Wutai, Sang suggests that one way to look at the deaths is that killing an enormous number of people will return some of that spiritual energy back to the planet. Avalanche, at least as far as Barrett's Splinter Cell is concerned, is also willing to put the interests of saving the planet over the needs of the people, at least to some degree. However, Aerith frames Sephiroth as the ultimate villain over Shinra because of Sephiroth's willingness to sacrifice people, not viewing them as part of the world. In theory, if Sephiroth took extremist actions to protect the planet, that would not be that dissimilar to what Avalanche is doing. However, the reason that Aerith gives for why Sephiroth is the greatest threat is that while he may be protecting the planet physically, he is not concerned for the cries of the spirits, the pain that he is causing the people, as is understood through the spiritual connection of people to the planet.
He'd tell you that he only cares about the planet, that he'd do everything in his power to protect and preserve it. But this isn't the way it's supposed to be. There's no greater threat to the planet than him.
In the book of Ecclesiastes, the preacher describes people's connections to the earth in a different way than the game. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come, and the years draw near of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel is broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1 and verses 5 to 7. While people have a physical connection with the earth described in the Bible as dust returning to dust, the spiritual connection is different, with people's spirits returning not to the planet, but to God. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade still captures the essence of the original game in its emphasis on environmental protection and its eco-friendly themes.
For the planet to die, so many things will be lost.
However, in my humble opinion, the game has remade many of its ideas by introducing more nuance, context, and opposing viewpoints in ways that I feel are more successful than I remember the original being.
The Shinra Electric Power Company isn't the real enemy. It started with them, sure, but I promise you, there's a much bigger threat.
The messages of the original game did not age well, at least in my memory, but Remake seems to acknowledge more differing viewpoints in its characters. In this video, part 1, we took a look at opposing themes related to the world, such as the importance of protecting the world and cultivating it. In the next video, part 2, we will take a look at differing themes related to fighting for causes. That's all I have for you in this video. Bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If this video blessed you in some way, please consider watching some of my other videos, subscribing, or sharing with me some of your thoughts in the comments below.